Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We'll start the October and November meeting of the Metro North Long Island Committee.
See what happened.
Yes, a few events intervened. We're going to start with public comments, and our first speaker is Orrin Getz.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is Orrin Getz, and I live in Rockland County. First thing I'd like to say is the MTA, Metro North, and Long Island Railroad all deserve compliments in the way they handled the protection of the rolling stock and the resumption of service following Hurricane Sandy. An important aspect of what the MTA did was how well the public was kept informed about the service restoration. New Jersey Transit, on the other hand, badly miscalculated the effects of Hurricane Sandy. As a result, 261 passenger cars and 63 locomotives, including 9 brand-new ALP 45 dual-powered locomotives, were damaged by the flooding from Hurricane Sandy. Also, New Jersey Transit was much slower than Metro North and the Long Island Railroad in restoring service on its branch lines. It took 2 weeks to restore any service on the Pascack Valley line and Bergen County lines. Now, full-day weekday service has yet to be installed on the Pascack Valley and Port Jervis line, leaving large gaps in the schedules and not allowing the second new weekday express trains to operate on the Pascack Valley line. Also, there are just slow orders on the Pascack Valley line that are unexplained, causing trains to miss connections at Secaucus, further delaying commuters. And we'd like to get an answer from New Jersey Transit on that. We are therefore asking that Metro North and the Long Island Railroad make a very special effort to help New Jersey Transit repair its damaged cars and locomotives, and possibly even loan New Jersey Transit some equipment. That is important to help get service restored on the west side of the Hudson River. We'd like full service as soon as possible. Also, on Black Friday, Simon Properties used the parking lots at the Anthony Wayne Recreation Area and provided buses to Woodbury Common Premium Outlets shopping plaza 5 miles away. Metro North's Port Jervis line goes right past Woodbury Common but does not stop there. In the short run, Metro North should set up a dedicated shuttle service between Woodbury Common and the Harriman train station, and also offer customers the same discount book, and I provided a copy to you, that is offered to the AAA members. It's really nice to see if we can give them a little bonus to encourage service to Woodbury Common. In the long run, however, we really need a passenger station at Woodbury Common on the Port Jervis line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Second speaker is Murray Bowden.
2 years of my life trying to build that station.
Morning. Got a little story to tell you today. This is particularly for you, Jonathan. Jonathan, right? Ira. Who's Jonathan? I got everybody mixed up. He's not here. You'll do. On November 11th, Memorial Day. See, and I had the pictures and everything. He's Mitch, I know. He's Mitch. On Memorial Day in Midland, Texas, at the Memorial Day Parade, a trailer with veterans and other people on the back was crossing a level grade crossing and hit by a freight train. There were gates and there were lights. A number of people were killed, a number of people injured. A level grade crossing. But the interesting thing was that grade crossing is in a quiet zone. That means the train horn did not have to be blown. Now on the Harlem Division, they blow the horn every day. We cannot get a quiet zone where there are no grade crossings. And in fact, the horn should be blown at the grade crossing and not from the train. I believe it is the responsibility of the president of Metro North to address issues like that, because that impacts thousands and thousands of people. And if he can't understand that a quiet zone in Midland, Texas at a grade crossing is permitted, why Do we blow the train horns for high-level stations and grade crossings in Metro Northland? This is symbolic of the way people think. Do we move on to the 21st century or not? The horn belongs at the grade crossing, not on a train. The people standing there need to hear it not from a train that's a quarter of a mile away. Now, how do we address that problem? That's a cultural change and a change in the way we think. And until we recognize that we have to think differently, we're going to continue to make decisions that are not in the best interest of the riding public. Howard, your job is not to get your picture in the paper. At the MTA meeting in White Plains, you could have sat down with me and talked to me about a number of things, but I'm not important enough to do that. And every time I want to make an appointment with you, you're too busy. In White Plains, there was plenty of time to talk to me. I didn't ask you. It's your responsibility. If you want to discuss things like this and move forward, call's yours. I'm ready to meet with you anytime. You call me. I'm not calling you anymore. But I'm also suggesting that you should look at the way you evaluate problems, because we don't need car garages. We need bus service. We need to move people out of their cars. And as are you listening? I was talking about things that are important, and I know that there are fixed rules that some people talk about. It's time that those rules became a little more flexible, and there was a realization that what I was saying was quite important. This information comes down from Governor Cuomo. He said specifically we have to break down the information silos. That means we have to be open to new suggestions. We have to think. And have you been thinking about what I said, you might have let me continue, because now you gave me the opportunity to talk about Governor Cuomo's initiative is, let's break down those information silos. And if you want to stop me, fine. Then I'll say, maybe we need somebody else in your job.
Thank you, sir. William Henderson?
Good morning. I want to echo Orrin's comments about the phenomenal job that both railroads did in restoring service. Not only the Metro North west of Hudson, but Metro North east of Hudson and Long Island Railroad. They were faced with some major challenges and surmounted them. And we'd like to thank, on behalf of the riders, all of the staff who worked so hard to bring back service and to restore a modicum of normality to the service, even while people didn't have electricity or other vital services in their homes. That said, we have a ways to go. We have limited service on Long Island Railroad. Metro North is missing a couple of express trains, and these are causing some hardships for folks. Unfortunately, our west of Hudson service on Metro North and Long Island Railroad are not totally in control of their own destinies, and largely that's where some of our issues lie right now. We're not seeing the kind of openness and information that we need from folks like Amtrak, who control the East River tunnels, and New Jersey Transit, who controls west of Hudson service, that the riders really need to know what their future is. We ask for the MTA and the operating agencies to be forceful advocates for the riders in finding out what's going to happen, what the schedules are, and when service will be restored to its ultimate state of normality. We really have some folks out there who are hanging on day to day, who are taking packed trains in Long Island, who are taking trains earlier than they normally would have west of Hudson, and they need to know when their lives are going to return to normal. But I just want to make it clear that we appreciate deeply all the efforts of Metro North and Long Island Railroad in restoring service. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And our last speaker is Anthony Simon.
Good morning, Chairman Loda and board members. My name is Anthony Simon. I am the General Chairman of the United Transportation Union, representing conductors, track workers, building and bridges workers, maintenance of equipment employees on the Long Island Railroad. I am here today to first acknowledge the efforts and the success of Chairman Loda and the MTA leadership, Helena Williams and her staff, the MTA Police Department for an outstanding job. This agency has pulled off a small miracle in the recovery of one of the worst storms in the history of our region. With that said, I need to emphasize to this committee and to the public the amazing efforts and sacrifices that were made by the represented workforce at the MTA, particularly the Long Island Railroad. While important coordination and decisions were being made behind the scenes, it was the frontline workforce who were out there in the elements doing whatever it took to first secure and shut down our system, and then to restore service with no hesitation. So many of our employees on the Long Island Railroad were themselves without power and suffered devastation, and some are still homeless today. They were forced to be away from their families, who were frightened and alone to tend to the needs of railroad operations. Even weeks after the storm, workers waited online for hours for gas so they can report to work. Train service employees who lost everything, including their work uniforms, came to work with the clothes on their backs. Our entire membership, without doubt, answered the call like the true professionals they are. When a storm or any situation as challenging as Sandy comes our way, that is when you know what railroad workers are made of. Railroading is a career, not a job. Railroaders don't work with their co-workers. They work with their family, railroad families. They take pride in their work and can achieve amazing things when they are trusted to do so and treated fairly. I absolutely welcome the fact that our customers expect the best from the Long Island Railroad workers. In the last customer survey in all categories that identify railroad employee service, we were at or above 90%. And we will motivate our members for an even better grade. While I assure our members they are appreciated for the truly amazing accomplishments during this devastating storm. As we sometimes are easy to judge and criticize the MTA, particularly their employees and their workers, the inefficiencies or alleged abuse, it is times like right now when we need to recognize the vital service they provide, the expertise, qualifications, dedication of Long Island Railroad workers is well known throughout our nation. As a national representative of our organization, it is often frustrating for me to hear more positive remarks about our membership and our employees in other states than I hear in our own region. So I ask together, we let our voices be heard and thank our members and your employees for a truly amazing job. In closing, congratulations to the MTA on the amazing efforts displayed before, during, and after Sandy. And to the workforce, you are the best of what you do. Be proud and continue to work hard. On behalf of your union leadership, thank you for once again stepping up. You are the backbone of this railroad. I just want to make a special thanks to one particular person who stood by me 24/7, working with the operations, working with the membership, and getting out in the field, and that's board member Tessitore. He was there 24/7 and never stopped. And with that type of cooperation with management and upper management, you couldn't get this job done. So thank you, and thank you, board members. Chairman Loda, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. I think all the members of the committee recognize the exemplary work done by all of our employees at both of our commuter railroads and join me in thanking all of them for a tremendous job well done during the last couple of weeks and all during the storm and its aftermath. I have the September minutes on the agenda. Are there any changes to the September minutes? All in favor? Okay, I do not believe there's any change to the work plan. Before we start the official part of the meeting, I wanted to take a moment. We want to take a moment today to recognize the recent efforts of two MTA police officers, Michael Burns and Joseph Teresiano and Metro North District Superintendent Emilio Perez in successfully apprehending a robbery suspect. It's important that we commend the brave actions and efforts of these employees as an example of what all MTA employees do. We thank them for their efforts in this situation. We're glad to recognize them, and I want to take a moment to turn the microphone over to Howard Permit, who will go through the specifics of the
Yes.
incident. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Mitch, and good morning. As Mitch said, that we want to recognize the efforts of our two police officers and Metro North employee, Emilio Perez, in apprehending a robbery suspect. And what happened was on October 12th, moments after being notified of a bank robbery at York Avenue and 79th Street in Manhattan, two officers, Michael Burns and Joseph Teresiano, apprehended the bank robbery suspect as he was waiting at 125th Street to board a New Haven Line train. Their efforts were assisted by GCT District Superintendent Emilio Perez, who held all Connecticut-bound trains while MTA police canvassed trains departing from New York. The officers recognized the suspect from a wanted poster that NYPD had reissued the day before for a suspect in 6 prior Manhattan bank robberies. They arrested Jerry Walton of Waterbury, Connecticut, who appeared to be waiting for the 1217 train to Waterbury. He was found in possession of over $6,800 and a small amount of heroin. He had no weapon. He is a suspect in one robbery at the Chase branch on York Avenue. He is also suspected in an attempted robbery 10 minutes earlier at a Citibank on East 72nd Street. In each case, he showed no weapon but used a verbal threat. The NYPD Major Case Squad responded. The investigation is ongoing with FBA involvement. The suspect is wanted in connection with 6 prior bank robberies and as well as the 2 on October 12th. So I want to ask the officers and Emilio to please come up and thank them for their efforts and bravery. One to each. Let me just first we'll give one Michael.
We just took that again.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Thanks again. Thank you. All right.
Okay. The beginning of our agency report starts with Helena this month, Long Island Railroad.
There we go. Okay, good morning. Thank you. I am going to echo some of the comments of our speakers, in particular Anthony Simon, General Chairman of the UTU. Many of our employees were very displaced by the damage caused by Hurricane Sandy. And I do want to take a moment to recognize not only those employees who lost homes, cars, and faced property damage, but all our employees who faced extraordinary obstacles in getting to work and working through the recovery period for Hurricane Sandy. We really did, I think, accomplish a tremendous amount in record time. More than 200 trees were down, 20 substations without power, utility poles across the right-of-way. We had a flooded West Side Yard, 2 of our 4 East River tunnels knocked out of commission, and yet within 24 hours, we were able to run trains between Jamaica and Penn Station and between Jamaica and Atlantic Terminal, Brooklyn. Within 48 hours, we had service between Great Neck and Penn Station and between Ronkonkoma and Penn, almost full restoration of 2 of our major branches. Within 72 hours, we had service on all 4 of our busiest branches, Port Washington all the way to Port Washington, Ronkonkoma, Babylon, and Huntington. And I just want to pause not only to recognize the tremendous effort by the workforce, but the tremendous effort by my own management team as well. In particular, I have to turn to Mike Gelomino and Kevin Tomlinson for really an extraordinary effort. And of course, the effort begins before a storm, and we want to pause for a moment. We're going to thank Chairman Joe Loda. Joe, your leadership in staying with, a very rigid schedule for shutting down the system enabled our workforce to be properly deployed, get out there and take the system down in a professional and in a way that enabled us to really support a better recovery. We had over 290 grade crossings where we secured gates. We either pinned them or took the gates down before the storm hit. And we had trains that we had to move within that 8-hour period of shutdown. We moved all the trains from West Side Yard, which we knew had a potential for flooding. We moved all of the trains out of Long Beach, which of course we knew had a potential for flooding. And we were able to locate that equipment all on higher ground. But it takes 8 hours to shut a system down, and we appreciate your leadership in ensuring, we all worked very hard. Joe, I had many phone calls, many storm planning phone calls and recovering phone calls, where we went through and he listened patiently to what it took to really prepare for the storm, and then gave us the support we needed to get it done. With dangerously high winds passing and the storm surges receding, again, Mike and Kevin both really led the Long Island team in a region-wide recovery effort. And our labor partners, UTU, TCU, locomotive engineers, all our crafts really did a tremendous job of stepping up to the plate. Now, of course, Long Island had an extra special bonus after Hurricane Sandy. We had a nor'easter, which they now name. I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute, when did they start naming nor'easters? But anyway, Athena visited us with more than 6.5 inches of very wet, heavy snow, which took down more trees and took down more power lines. As you know, I take a very strong view about not running trains in dangerous situations. And when you have power lines coming down and tree limbs coming down and they have to be removed before trains can proceed, the safest course of action is to suspend service. So that evening we did suspend service twice. It allowed us to safely deploy employees who went in raging wind and snow to remove tree branches, get power lines and communication lines off the track and restore service. It was a long night, but again, I want to compliment Mike, my transportation crew, really an extraordinary job. No stranded trains. There were some trains that had to back up and realign. We got trains to stations. We held trains at Penn Station where it is a safe environment for customers. And then we recovered from that with more power affected and more power lines that had to be secured. Through all of this, I have to pause and really thank our customers as well. They have been enduring, very difficult commuting conditions during the last month. We still do not have full use of 2 Amtrak tunnels that were flooded, and as a result, many of our peak trains are still crowded. We are very keenly aware of this hardship. And we are working very closely with Amtrak, and I'm going to echo words I heard from Bill Henderson. We are certainly not in control of our own destiny, but we are very strong advocates. The repair work on the signal relay cases that were damaged during the storm, they were infiltrated with seawater, and the salt water, of course, has a tremendous corrosive effect. They have been working hard in Lancaster, actually, reconfiguring the signal cases, getting new signal cases. They have to develop a plan for a weekend cutover. So it's, line 1 and line 2. They'll bring line 2 back first. They have to lay out the signal cases, go back in and now cut them in and do a test plan showing that the new signal system works. Then they have to do line 1 we are very anxious for them to complete this work by 2013. We want to start the new year giving our customers back the full train schedule. We want to get out of the number of standees we've been facing. I will say that, of course, the holiday season is impacting some of the ability of Amtrak to get the work done. And they are very conscious of that. We've offered the assistance of our workforce as well. Amtrak wants to try to handle it with their workforce, and we understand that. But we are insisting that they work very conscientiously to get these 2 weekend cutovers completed before the first of the year. We understand that the work on the signal cases is going very well, and they're moving that along. So we'll be keeping our chair and of course the chairman informed of this progress. Everybody is advocating, let's get the tunnels done. I am going to just pause for a moment and talk about Long Beach. As you know, Long Beach was an area completely devastated by Hurricane Sandy. I am pleased to say that as of Sunday, we have restored electric service to the Long Beach branch. Final testing was completed over the weekend, allowing us to restore service on the branch. Again, I have to really compliment my engineering forces. They just did a tremendous job. We brought 3 substations back online, allowing us to resume the electric train service. Prior to the electric train service, many of you know we did some diesel service. And there were actually lots of people out taking photographs because they've never seen diesel trains on the Long Beach branch before. But it was our effort to get down to Long Beach, show the community that we would be there for them and assist in any way we could, including bus service, diesel service, and now back to electric train service. It's been a extraordinary period of time of challenge for Long Island Railroad. I wanted to come here this morning, talk about getting through all of those challenges, and we actually distributed our 2012 holiday schedule for you in a handout because it does appear in both the October book and the November committee book. I wanted to consolidate and show you what we were putting out for our customers. You have that as a handout. So, of course, I'm, very pleased to talk about the extra holiday service. But before I do that, I have to talk about holiday service on the night before Thanksgiving. As many of you know, we faced a power outage at Penn Station, which resulted in a 1.5 hour suspension of service during the evening peak. I want to pause and thank Mike Cohen for an excellent police effort. Both at Penn Station and at Jamaica. We did have extraordinary crowds. I will say that many people did take advantage of the early release trains, or we would have faced even a more incredible crowd. But the police did a wonderful job for us. We were able to restore service after Amtrak got their power back. But like any restoration of service, it takes time to come out of it and get equipment and crews back in place. Clearly, our customers faced a tremendous challenge on the eve of Thanksgiving. So with that said, I do want to just turn to a more positive point about our our holiday schedule. I don't want to overlook that on the Port Washington branch, on weekends, we're going to have the half-hourly westbound service from 9 to 1 p.m. and 4 eastbound trains to Port Washington in the afternoon, 4 to 8. So that's really an ideal opportunity to bring some of those customers back. We will, on the weekend, have 4 additional trains from Long Beach in the a.m. and 4 in the p.m. We've added 2 late-night trains overnight as well, 1 to Babylon and 1 to Huntington. We think that the overnight crowds out of Penn can be better managed with some additional train service, and we can do that without impacting East Side Access construction through the end of the year. So on a closing note, I do want to point out ridership, unfortunately, after 13 months of consecutive increases in ridership, we did face a decline in ridership in October due to the hurricane. The ridership decreased 8.3%. Long Island Railroad carried 6.6 million customers in October 2012 compared to 7.2 million in October 2011. That's about 600,000 customers less, which really does account for that period of the storm. Of course, non-commutation was affected as well. I do, on a positive note, want to say that the ridership at the Barclays Center has been very strong. Point out that at the Justin Bieber concert, we attracted 6,000 new customers traveling to and from Brooklyn, and that service has actually been operating very effectively, and a lot of compliments from customers about the easy access from the arena to our terminal. On a closing note, I want to mention that, consistent with our pledge to our customers, when we do have a service outage, we don't charge the processing fee for refunds. We are getting some refund requests for the 29th, 30th, and 31st of October. We'll start to accumulate those numbers, see what it looks like, and report back to the committee on that. So that's really our opening report. And we will keep you informed about the progress on the tunnels.
Any questions for Helena on any of those items? Jim?
Is there, I'll just have to claim ignorance on the refund policy with regard to a service disruption such as this. Could you just quickly go over that?
As you know, we have the $10 processing fee for any customer seeking a
That I
refund,
know.
and we will suspend the processing fee for customers who seek a refund. And these are really daily tickets. Even though we have a longer period for people to use tickets, we don't have that shortened period anymore. We've gone now to the 6-month period. There are customers who, have single-day travel plans and seek a refund, and we won't charge the $10.
We're not going to be refunding pro rata amounts for
That's correct.
lost service on
We are not.
monthlies, for instance.
No, but on monthlies, we did give customers, until November 5th, they were able to use their October tickets. So it did give customers an opportunity there not to face additional charges. And we suspended a lot of onboard, penalties while in Long Island Railroad it was longer. We had the 2 free days. We had the monthlies to November 5th, and we suspended onboard fares because we had many stations that had no power to the TVMs. So we've tried to make adjustments on the fare, but the basic, fare will now be in effect.
And have you had any pushback on that policy or?
Yeah, I think both Howard and I will face individual letters, and, we always have the ability to look at individual correspondence and, determine what fits within the parameters of our policy. I will tell you that if you return a monthly ticket unopened, for example, you do get a refund. And we've already gotten a number of tickets, monthly tickets, mail-in ride customers who have returned them unopened because their place of business is closed and relocating while they repair.
Howard?
Okay. Good morning again. I want to first start just generally on our operations. October was a very good month. We had an on-time performance of 97.8%. Year-to-date, we're still at 97.5%. And that's despite the major events we've had over the last months. Obviously, and I'll talk about Hurricane Sandy from Metro North's perspective in a minute. We had the nor'easter that Helena mentioned, and we also had 2 major storms that resulted in severe slip slide on our trains when the trains cannot get sufficient traction, and we have to reduce the speeds on all trains on Metro North, so it's a safe operation, but then all the trains are late. The other thing I do want to note, which is really a terrific achievement for Metro North, is that our consist compliance in the month of October was 99.9%. So you will recall a few years ago when we struggled to have enough cars on all our trains. What that means, to put that in some perspective, on the Harlem line in the month of October, we ran 2,588 trains, one of which had the wrong number of cars on it. On the Hudson line, similarly, going outbound, we ran 1,900 trains that month, and one train also had the wrong consist. So that's really been a focus of ours, and I think those achievements kind of highlight that, how far we've come. With regard to Hurricane Sandy, I certainly want to echo the comments that Helena made, that first, again, and most importantly, to thank both, again, the chairman as well as Metro-North management and all our employees for an incredibly good job during a storm that has been described was really something we'd never seen before. We had overall, I'm very, very pleased with how we planned for the event as well as how we restored service. There was terrific teamwork across all the departments. With our agreement forces as well as management forces and within the MTA family. Based on that, we were able to restore service, full service, we started to restore service 2.5 days after we shut down and a day and a half after the storm passed. And while we have had some severe weather in the last few years, like Hurricane Irene, we had never seen anything like Hurricane Sandy and the damage that it brought on Metro-North. We had a major Hudson River storm surge. The storm surge was well over 10 feet from Croton Harmon south. That led to a huge amount of the Hudson line being flooded. In our memory, we have never had that type of effort. We will get flooding from rainwater that comes down the hill to the Hudson line, but for the first time, the river rose, as did the Harlem River, and we ended up with severe amount of debris. We had washouts. We had a number of stations that were underwater. In fact, we have a picture of Spuyten Duyvil Station where it looks like the platform is in the middle of the ocean. The water came up that high. And as many of you saw, we had the boat on the tracks.
Give you a boat.
Right. That got floated in from in Ossining. So a huge amount of damage, which was different than what we had seen over the last 30 years. We also had a very large number of trees that fell on the tracks, in the catenary, and the signal wires, took down poles. We had to clear all of that. Significant power outages as well that we had to work around. But we were able to recover quickly based on Metro-North's constant focus on basics, which is good emergency planning and preparation, an integrated and talented management team, and a very dedicated and hardworking workforce who was unafraid to brave the elements to restore the railroad for its customers. And this is truly, for a historic event across the whole region, it wreaked extensive damage in the area. And I personally will say I'm very proud to be part of such a dedicated and professional team who did our part to restore normalcy in our part of this region, while others still are struggling elsewhere. Very pleased we were able to, at least for people in the northern suburbs, be able to bring back transportation so they can get on with their lives. Beyond that, a couple other things to talk about. We did implement our first round of service improvements October 14th. You may recall this is the first of basically three of the overall MTA service improvements that were approved this summer. We'll be implementing more in April and then again in October. Overall, we're going to increase service by about 5%. The October round increased service by 1.2%. And in there, what we've done now is we have longer trains on all the weekends, so it's more it's more comfortable for people. They have a place for their packages, things like that. We also increased the trip frequency and speeds, so now at many stations on the weekends, trains come every half hour, if not every 20 minutes, at the bigger stations. We are monitoring the ridership impact. We think it'll be very positive, and I'll report back to you when we have some numbers. With the storm and interceding, we have not been able to really get any good sense yet, other than we know we have some increased ridership, but we don't have enough for me to report anything definitive. With regard to the holiday schedule, we sent that out before Thanksgiving to everybody, and this is a time period we'll be running significant amount of extra service. It supplements all the new service we put in, but it includes extra cars, extra staffing on trains, new trains, what we call shopper specials. And the goal here is to get as many people we can to be taking the train, making sure everyone has a seat, and making sure we're collecting all the tickets on these extremely crowded trains. With regard to, on a different topic, just a couple of key projects I want to highlight for you that we've completed. In GCT, two things. One is we completed the Whispering Gallery renovations, which is down by the Oyster Bar, and we got that done in time in advance of the centennial. The project was done within schedule and on budget. Also, secondly, the New York City Fire Department has elected to participate in our new railroad and police radio system that's being constructed in GCT in the Park Avenue Tunnel. They had an option. They've decided to exercise it, so this will provide the fire department with emergency radio coverage within Grand Central and in the tunnel. That's a major positive from a public safety standpoint. This project, the design, is just about done. It'll start to be implemented next year. It's starting in January. Another project which we have a procurement for this month is the new cab signal system on the Port Jervis line. This is a critical project that will improve safety and reliability on the Port Jervis line. And this is one of a series of projects that we've been implementing over the past 5 years to bring the Port Jervis line up to a state of good repair. This signal system we're replacing was built in the 1940s by Norfolk Southern. It wasn't even Norfolk Southern then. So it's a very old system, and this is a major, major step forward on the Port Jervis line. Also, we had an event, in fact, 2 days before Sandy, up in Bedford Hills and Katona, where we recognized our whole station enhancement program. This is a program where we are now on a very systemic basis and also looking at everything in a station in a comprehensive way, going station by station to spruce up and improve our stations. Not only does it make it a much nicer environment for our customers, but it also will save money down the road by doing good maintenance. We don't have to replace things as quickly. So this is a program we put in, and it's going very well, very pleased about it. Financially, year-to-date results are positive. Operating revenue is slightly over the mid-year forecast due to higher non-passenger revenue, which in large part is being driven by the advertising revenue in Grand Central. You may recall we put in those digital monitors about a year and a half ago, and they are generating significant amount of money for us. Operating expenses are 2.7% under budget, and again, this is from controls on overtime, material. Those are the big factors there. One thing I will note is that year-to-date in September, our adjusted fare box operating ratio was 70.5%, which is almost 3% better than mid-year forecast. It's also the best number we've ever had since we started tracking this in January 2011. So we're very pleased that that shows, in terms of efficiency and keeping costs down, that we've been able to do that. And as I say, this is the best we've ever had. Ridership, October, ridership went down because of the hurricane. It decreased 8.4%. If we took out the impacts of the hurricane, we project it would have gone up at 3.1%. Year-to-date, ridership is up 2.2%. If we took out the hurricane, it would have been 3.4%. So the underlying trends continue to be very positive. We'll have, obviously, in November impacts as well of the hurricane. Injuries are down 16% through September. It's basically a very positive story as in terms of the injuries being reduced. Customer injuries are also down as well. So that's a good story. Any questions on anything I reported on?
Any questions for Howard? Jim?
Not questions, but just observations. Number one, you did mention the service expansion, which from a rider's perspective, of course, is something that is applauded and very much appreciated. Pardon me. The MTA public relations staff came up with a really spectacular what I would call a fake front page for the Journal News, which talked about 10/14, a great day for New York, story on the back. And when you open this baby up, we have the new schedule. It rocked me back in my chair that morning when I saw it, because I thought to myself, this is just a real win-win situation. It gets people on the train, and it says that we are really using our heads to get people's attention as to what we're able to do. And we are going to, I guess, have an opportunity to surprise them again in the spring. So I look forward to that.
Well, thanks, Jim. I think that was a great effort. It was done by Metro North, Randy Fleischer's staff, as well as MTA staff, came up with that concept. We had never done that before, and I agree with you. I thought it was a great way to publicize and market the new service.
Yeah, I think that was really all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, anything else? Michael, Capital Construction?
The East Side Access project was not physically impacted during the hurricane. We got both. We did good work and got lucky. So the two. However, the work that has resumed, the productivity in Harold is being impacted clearly by the ongoing repairs, and we accept that, and we're looking for ways to see how we can mitigate that. But that is there. At the same time, the underpass under Northern Boulevard was completed, and now we're actually doing the concreting, waterproofing, and we expect that to be done early spring. So that actually, we're very happy that we're able to actually see through to the other side with no incidents. The all work in Queens for the board tunnels and structures remains targeted for completion by the end of the year, potentially the first 2 weeks in January, but then we expect them to be gone. They started to demobilize the equipment from the open cut, and they're turning it over to the next contractor. In Manhattan, we reached an important milestone with the completion of the wellways and shaftways for the installation of the escalators and elevators that will take place in the future, as well as finishes, so that work is behind us. And as far as the vent plant facilities, we at 44th, 50th, and 55th, 44th and 50th are advancing rather well. 55th Street, we're just starting, and we also engage in making sure that our neighbors are engaged, and we actually are prepared to make a presentation at Community Board 5 rather soon. The other thing is we are still negotiating the system contract, and we received bids for the Manhattan structure contract that turn out, in our opinions, to be too high. We have evaluated that, and we rejected all bids. And we will be restructuring the way we're going to bid the project in order to make sure that we can actually constrain the amount of money that we need to spend. That's it.
Any questions for Mike?
I think that we have to take a hard look at the risks that the contracts are rather large, and I think that potentially were risks that could have been mitigated that we did not. Both making smaller contracts and looking. We are now actually analyzing exactly what happened. We are not yet in a position to brief you on that. Absolutely.
Regarding the same set of contracts, the schedule has for a December 2012 award. What's the schedule now for award of those contracts?
The schedule of award would change because we're breaking up that contract, so that's going to be a different thing. Again, I'm not yet prepared to discuss that.
Okay.
We've just done that just the day before Thanksgiving, so on Wednesday. So.
Anyone else for Michael? Okay. MTA Police, Chief?
Good morning, and I want to thank Metro North and Howard Perman for recognizing the efforts of Officer Triciano and Officer Burns with the bank robbery arrest. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank both agencies for the information and flow and communication before the storm and during the restoration period. It greatly helped us to support your efforts
during and after the storm. We had no major crime issues on our facilities during the storm. As mentioned, we did have some crowd issues, and we're continuing to work with Amtrak, the NYPD, and other agencies, New Jersey Transit, on those issues with the crowding. Overall, for October, we were down 13%. We did have a slight spike in larcenies, 23 versus 19. Those are mainly due to unattended property and some copper thefts. Year to date, we are down 6% overall in crime in virtually every category except for larcenies. I believe we're up by 1. If you have any questions.
Any questions on the police report? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Let's go to agency information items. The information items are both the October and the November items. Helena, start with Long Island Railroad.
Okay, we have left over from October a staff summary on our construction activities that impact schedule. We also are now correcting that information in the November package on the concrete tie replacement program, and the earlier October staff summary included the holiday schedule, which I've separately distributed. So it's just basic information about the impacts of our construction schedule as we go through March.
Yeah. The concrete tie replacement, is that part of the concrete tie replacement, is that part of that old group of ties that was defective?
It is, yes.
So we're still working on that?
And
Okay.
you know, we will brief you separately on, that whole
Thank you.
timetable and replacement schedule.
Thank you.
And we also had in our October package, both railroads included its report on diversity in our recruitment strategies. I understand that that's been rescheduled now for a full discussion in December. But I do want to note that that had been in the October information packages. So that's really it for Long Island Railroad on the information items.
Okay. Howard?
The only item we had left over was from the operating budget information, and that was it on information.
Okay. Let's go to Metro North action items.
Right.
Which were from October. The first one is a New York State Department of Transportation grant, which I believe has been handed out again.
Okay, yes, and
Yes.
that's where we're asking for approval to accept $300,000 in congestion mitigation air quality grant from NISDOT that supports the connecting services that we operate with our partners throughout the territory, and this funds both operating and marketing activities. So we'd ask your approval.
Motion to accept. Second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, the
Okay.
second is to seek MTA Board approval to authorize a hearing with regard to setting fares for the new West Haven station on the New Haven line, which is scheduled to open in June.
Motion to accept. Second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, procurements. Long Island Railroad.
Okay, there are 9 Long Island Railroad procurements in this month's package. The package has been consolidated to represent both October and November procurements. The package totals $676,000. There are 2 non-competitive procurements, and there are 7 items in the competitive section, and there are no ratifications. Let me first go through the 3-year contract for New York State Industries for the disabled to provide window, wall, and floor cleaning services at Jamaica and Hempstead Building. This is a renewal contract, and it's awarded pursuant to state finance law and NYSED provisions in order to advance social and economic goals for the disabled. We also have a contract to award a 2-year sole source miscellaneous service renewal contract to Heidelberg USA in not to exceed amount of $60,000 for maintenance and repair of the Heidelberg print shop. I'm going to pause for a moment. I do have to say the print shop did an extraordinary job during Hurricane Sandy's restoration effort, printing schedules, almost around the clock for us as we restored service and wanted to inform customers what the schedules look like. Could I have a vote, please, on the non-competitive procurement?
Motion to accept the non-competitive. Second.
Wait.
I know, we're getting there. Don't worry. Motion to accept and second. Now, comments, questions. Jonathan?
I'm not worried. I just didn't want to be
No.
ignored.
Don't worry.
We got you.
We got you.
I'm on another committee where if you don't speak real fast, it's
No.
you're in a lot of trouble.
We give everybody an opportunity here.
All right. I know,
worry,
and
Bob.
I appreciate it.
Not
Thank
a
you.
problem. Go ahead.
The question I have is just simple, and I don't know if it's timely, but I just want to get on the non-competitive purchase and public works contract, Scheid and Bachman, additional ticket vending machines. I have a question.
We're gonna get to that in a second. That's under Metro North, right, Howard?
Yes,
That's a
that's
separate
Metro
one.
North,
So
Right.
we're not on that yet. If you could wait till we get to that point, Jonathan, then we'll come back.
It is a joint procurement,
But it's under Metro North.
Yeah, it's under Metro North.
It's not in these two, so we'll get to that in 1 second.
Got it.
Okay.
Right, thanks.
Any questions or comments under these two for non-competitive? All in favor?
All right.
Okay. Competitive for Long Island Railroad, starting on page 33.
And
Then we're gonna
have-
go back
right.
to Jonathan's number.
We have
Go ahead.
7 items in the competitive section. 5 involve requesting authority of this board to issue RFPs and use that as our competitive process. These are competitive RFPs. The first is to design and furnish a new supervisory control system at Divide Tower. Divide is just east of Hicksville. It is one of our most important areas for switching and dispatching trains. We need to upgrade there, and that's an area that we do have. We have to put a lot of time and maintenance in right now. It was installed approximately 25 years ago. It needs to be kept in a state of good repair. That's the area where we divide, hence the name, Divide, trains between the Huntington branch and the Ronkonkoma branch. The next is a direct fixation track fastener system that we use at Massapequa Park Viaduct. You know, this is a system where there is no ballast and track is fastened right to a concrete viaduct. The next is scheduled maintenance, preventive maintenance, inspections, and remedial, unscheduled, and emergency on-call repairs for both Metro North and Long Island Railroad on escalators. And we're working, together in an RFP process. Each railroad will have its own requirements by location, but we are going to use an RFP process to get as competitive a response as possible. The next is a signal system for Spionk to Montauk segment of the Long Island Railroad's Montauk branch. An RFP is important for this one as we begin to explore bringing track circuits into this long section, which in railroad parlance is called dark territory. We have no signal system there currently. We need to install track circuits as we prepare for positive train control as an overlay system. And then that's actually it on the RFP request. We do have 2 competitive contracts, one involving services for audits and certification renewals in our engineering department on the International Standards Organization, which certifies our engineering department standards. And then finally, a 2-year personal services contract to Staples Marketing. They do marketing and development in Nassau County for public transit. It's a CMAQ grant that we get, Federal Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement. And then finally, we have a competitive contract with Aramark Uniform Services, $92,000 to supply weekly cleaning services on various mats in Long Island Railroad. And with that, we ask for a vote.
Any motion to approve these? Motion to approve? Second? Questions or comments on any of these items? Charles?
With respect to the request for a declaration that it's in the public interest to declare that competitive bidding is impractical or inappropriate with respect to the escalator and elevator situation, The grounds stated are that the RFP process will afford the railroads the ability to evaluate criteria such as contractor experience, resources, technical expertise, and safety records. My first question is, why can't you do that in the bidding process? You can find out whether the person has a good safety record and either qualify them or not. My concern is, this is the third time in my tenure on this board that we've been taking a good hard look at contracts involving escalators. We've had a fair number of problems out in Long Island, not of your making, but problems that exist, including ones that have caused fatalities. I wonder why we go down this road of suspending the bidding process.
Well, first of all, I want to say this is not a request to suspend. We want to engage in a very competitive process. We actually think, and you have highlighted our concerns, why a low bid situation is not the best for escalator response by the bidding community. We want to ensure that we are getting companies that can field the resources in the 24-hour response time that's required. The low bid, and again, a sealed competitive bid does of course allow you to, look at it, is it a responsible bidder, but then price dictates under a low bid scenario. And our teams have met, we've spent a lot of time on this. As you know, escalators has been a tremendous challenge for us, and we feel that we get a better opportunity to carefully assess the resources needed to maintain this older equipment by using an RFP process. But I will guarantee that we are trying to seek a very competitive process.
Let me ask you this, if I may. The RFQ process does not work in this context? Or are you barred from it?
No,
Request for qualification?
In fact, we have already, I think throughout the past year, engaged at Long Island Railroad in an RFQ process to test the qualifications. We also do that as a way to reach out to the contracting community and make sure they know what we're looking for, that they can develop a response, and that they understand our requirements. I'm not 100% sure, but I actually think Metro North has looked at our RFQ efforts as well.
Yeah, let me just say, Chuck, I mean, we agree with what Helena has laid out. And that's why, first of all, joining forces should get us the most efficient and the best company to respond. Our issue is not outdoor escalators, it's Grand Central escalators, which has their own sets of issues associated with them. But I'd echo what Helena said. I think we believe that there's the issue of the quality that these companies bring and the work they'll do is absolutely critical, and we have to be certain we get the absolute best person, not just one who meets the minimum requirements. And then once we have that, then price is absolutely critical as part of this. So I don't think there's any lessening of the importance of pricing. I think, we believe, along with Helena and our staffs, that this is the best way to get the best value to fix the escalators.
Howard, my concern is not just is first process and what is the best, and the process required is a statutory one, and we need to make a showing that there's a reason to deviate from the statutory one. But the second part is Long Island Railroad has a unique problem with those outdoor escalators. It's a terrible situation that you have to deal with. And my concern is that we do everything we possibly can, and I'm sure you will do that, and I just want to reinforce it, that we really get a good hard look. We've gone through a couple of contractors in the past year or so, and at some point we need to get some stability. We need to have inventory so people don't have to wait for days, weeks, and months to get it done.
And I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I think that's the goal.
It's like, I don't know.
Jim?
Maybe
I'll yield it, John.
Are you on this one yet?
Well, no, I wanted to just say I've had a significant number of conversations with Howard on this issue for a long time, and I wish I had had a few minutes. I didn't know Chuck had a problem with this. And I look at these procurements very carefully, as you know, and sometimes people tell me I waste too much time, which I don't think I do. But I have to commend you for moving forward jointly on this. approach needs some type of drastic change because what's been going on hasn't worked. So I applaud you for getting a little creative and doing things a little differently and getting aggressive to create the problem. Too many times these escalators break down, for example, in Grand Central, particularly causing elderly people difficulties, causing people with children difficulties, people with packages difficulties. I'm glad you're taking the bold step to move forward and finally solve the problem because the Band-Aids haven't worked. So what I just wanted to say from my numerous questions and inquiries with Howard, that I think this is actually a great step forward. And, you know, the procurement process needs to be tough, but I think sometimes you got to, perhaps the written word didn't put it in the right perspective, but it's a great way to try and move forward. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Good. Jim, on these items?
Yeah. The comment I would make, and I don't think it requires an answer now, but whether there is a kind of a rule of thumb that you're going to apply to when the RFP process is going to be used and when it's not. I think that you might want to just discuss that at a future meeting, just so that we, have a general understanding of when that, how it's being implemented. That's all.
Okay. Well, there are standards in state law in regard to that also that have to be met, and that I think is the language issue and the findings that either Metro North or Long Island Railroad have to comply with before they can come to us with a request in that regard. Ira, you had something?
Yeah. Well, on that we have our own guidelines which are prescribed by law.
Yes.
But on number 8, the Nassau County the Nassau County marketing campaign.
Yes.
I mean that's been ongoing for a number of years now, which I wasn't completely aware of. If I could get some information about what's been done so far, that'd be great. About what really has happened.
Sure, we would be happy to do that.
Okay, that'd be great. And what they plan for the future. I mean, I'm just maybe because I live in Queens, I haven't seen any of it.
And of course, we're going through a period of transition now. In the past, we directly marketed Long
The
Island
bus,
Bus
yes.
as well. Now we're answering questions about how the two can still coordinate.
Right. Well, that was my
right.
second part of the question. Is how
Yeah.
does now that Nassau Bus is not us?
Right.
How are we coordinating with
We're
NICE
not
and-
marketing them directly, but we certainly
Right.
want customers to know that there's bus rail coordination.
It'd be good to know what's included.
Good.
Thanks.
We'll give you
Okay.
something on
Okay.
that.
Any other questions on any of these competitive items for the Long Island Railroad? If not, motion to approve and second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There are no ratifications for the Long Island Railroad. Non-competitive Metro North, page 28.
Okay, right. So overall, we have, just for both non-competitive and competitive, 17 procurements totaling $41.8 million. The two non-competitives are, one is an agreement to buy replacement parts from Brookville for locomotives that we have. They are the OEM for this contract. Second, and we'll answer John's questions, with Scheidt and Bachman. And let me just take a minute to explain what this is. This is a joint procurement between Metro North and Long Island, 28 ticket machines with an option for 10. The option for 10 is based on if we determine, because of Sandy, there are any machines that need to be replaced, then we would have 10 spares to do so. Number of our machines, and I'm not sure on Long Island, but I know in Metro North, for example, at Tarrytown, the machines were underwater. Right now they're functioning, but we don't know in 3 months or in 5 months if we'll have problems. So that's to cover that type of situation. The purpose of the order is as follows, is that since we last got our machines in 2005, there's been, first of all, significant growth in ridership on Metro North and on Long Island. There's also been, you may recall, as part of the budget cuts that we had to make a couple of years ago, a significant reduction in the number of ticket sellers. So we are depending now on our ticket machines far more than we used to. In Metro North, we have 2 new rail stations that need machines, both in the state of Connecticut, Fairfield Metro and the West Haven station. So there are a host of reasons why we need to get more increased ticket selling capacity. One of the other things we'll be doing at Metro North is we'll be opening up a 3rd ticket selling center in Grand Central next year, and we need the machines to do that, to both reduce lines and look at also, again, saving costs. So we have a need for these machines. In the last part I want to highlight on the machines is that we are also, as part of the overall MTA fare selling and collection initiative, going to be testing for the first time smart cards as a way to purchase tickets. So these machines will allow smart cards. If you have a smart card, you can use it just like you do a credit card. Right now, we don't have that on our machines. So it'll be a good, if you will, a little test to put the toe in the water to see if there are any issues. We don't anticipate any, but it's a good test for that. So we needed the machines, and the question then became how best to get them. And we felt, in very strongly so, that given the small number of machines compared to the investment we have in our current ticket selling system on both railroads, that the only really practical way to do it was to add on to the Scheiten-Bachmann order. Between us, we have approximately 1,000 ticket machines. Also, we have a back-end processing system. Each railroad has one that basically is the accounting system for all our ticket selling. And we needed something that would be consistent with that system, as well as, since this is such a small add-on, we want the same maintenance, the same parts. The efficiency all makes sense to add on to Scheiten-Bachmann. So we negotiated with Scheiten-Bachmann for the machines. The cost, their cost proposal is 7% higher than 2005, so that's about 1% a year, which is extreme. We think is reasonable, considering we're also getting expanded functionality of smart cards. And based on all of that, we're asking for the approval to go forward with these machines. It's a procurement of about $2.5 million. So then,
Jonathan, now, go ahead.
My other comment was much more sophisticated, sorry. I thought the explanation of what you needed and why you needed it was good, but when I was reading the material, I didn't understand why this one had to be non-competitive. I realize it says they're unique ticket selling equipment, but I don't see a link, so I'll let you explain. But is it because there's no other provider, or the other provider would be astronomically more expensive, and how do we know that?
The issue is first we need the machines that will work with the back-end financing system. That's a critical element, and that's a given. And we believe that there would be no one could manufacture a machine that would work, that we would believe to be reliable, anywhere as close to this price. Beyond that, John, the other part is that we have, and I believe the same for Long Island, we have very set maintenance protocols, how we service the machines, how we maintain the machines. You want to use that inventory of parts. You want to use those same people. We want to, because again, this is in round numbers about 2 or 3% add-on to our current systems. And so it didn't make sense to us to have another manufacturer for these small number of machines. Then you need a new back-end system or some way to work with our current system, new inventory. So it just seemed to be the most logical way to proceed. The other thing is that the machines have served us both very well. We've been very pleased with the machines. They've worked well. And so it just seemed to be the most effective way to go ahead.
Any other questions on either of these two items? Just these two items at the moment, just the non-competitive pieces. Jim?
Will there be an ability to retrofit existing machines to smart card?
No, the plan is, Jim, that I don't know if it's technically feasible or not, but our plan together is that these machines, I didn't actually say this, that we're looking, the machines live run out in about 5 years. So in around 2017, the railroads would jointly replace this entire system again. So it's also a very short time period, which I forgot to mention in John's question. So this is a test. We're not looking to retrofit what we have, because ultimately the next generation would take smart cards and all these would be replaced.
Okay. Any other questions on these two? Motion to approve? Second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Competitive, page 42.
Right. So we have 15 of them. I was just going to highlight a couple of them and then answer any questions. The one I want to highlight, the first one with, let's see here, with Alstom Signaling. This is a significant contract of $18 million, and this is to provide the signal equipment for the Port Jervis line. And so, as well as it's the Port Jervis line, it's the Waterbury branch in Connecticut, and it's also CP 109 on the Harlem line. So this is a critical, they're going to give us critical amount of signal equipment for these 3 projects. All of this will be ready for PTC, positive train control, so it'll be compatible with that. And highlight that when we complete the interlocking CP 109 in the Bronx, which is between Fordham and Botanical Gardens, that will be a major improvement to the operation of Metro North for the entire Harlem and New Haven line. So this is a very important project, and this is the signal equipment to do that. We also have the on-call, the on-call contract for 2 vendors to do asbestos, lead, and hazardous material abatement. That's ETS and Trio. And this is on an as-needed basis. And then the only other one I'll mention is our new snow removal contract, which is on page number 46. And these are people who do snow removal on Metro North territory. They do some stations, they do yards, and this is, for the next 4 years, this is a critical contract when we have snow. In fact, we already had to use some of them this year when we had the snowstorm in November. And that those are the ones I wanted to highlight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions on any of the competitive? Charles?
On the Alstom, and I do not gainsay the importance of that change.
Right.
I get back to a point that Mr. Ballin has been making for some time about where, after we approve a contract, we wind up not long thereafter with a modification or an addition or an alteration that is humongous, if you can find that word in the dictionary. Here you have a flag that I would ask you to pay attention to in context of possible future overruns. You have a 25% underbidding than the second low proposal and a 15% less than the engineer's estimate, which is great, as long as we don't get the modification to put that back in a little extra, which is the point that John has been making all along.
Right. Right. We will watch that very carefully. You're right. We're very pleased that the bids came in so low. And this area, by the way, because of PTC and the nationwide requirement for PTC, signal equipment in the bids have been coming in higher. There's been a significant, because the supply is not meeting the demand. So we were very happy, but I agree with you. We will watch this one very closely.
While humongous may not be in the dictionary, lowballing is.
Any other questions on Jonathan?
Just quickly, I recall from last year and previously that PTC is the result of federal mandate. So
Yes.
Would we need this equipment but for the federal mandate?
It's a mixed answer to that, John. We would not need the equipment on the Waterbury branch. That is solely for PTC. We would need the equipment for CP 109, and we would need the cab signal equipment. Now, the one question is, Bob, would we need anything different on the Port Jervis line? Or if we didn't have PTC, it would be the same?
It would be the same.
So it would be the same. So 2 of them would be the same.
All right, but it seems to me, is there any federal money available for this type of capital?
With regard to PTC, I think the 2 of us got $4 million towards an $800 million plus project.
Yeah, I knew the answer, sort of,
Right.
but I wanted to make the point in that fashion. The
Jonathan,
federal mandate.
Jonathan, it's like the Amtrak answer. It just keeps coming around and around and around
Right.
the same way.
I wish we had a better one.
And don't forget to mention, we've been ignored legislatively on the deadlines.
Right.
Well, I hope that we're keeping some sort of list for future argument's sake when we go to the federal government and ask for certain things, whether they're related to the mandates or whether they're related to the storm or something else, to show that we're doing what we can, but to the extent they impose changes on us, it would be helpful if they also provided the capital in which to make those changes.
We, between the 2 of us and with the MTA headquarters, have had an extensive effort in Washington on that message you just laid out. And we'll see. As Helena pointed out, we were trying to get the law extended. We came very close last year, the deadline for when this has to be done, but in the end, the Congress did not pass it. But we're very, very active in Washington on exactly your points.
Susan?
Thank you.
I appreciate Mr. Lieblung's technical answer to the Port Jervis line, but I would like to add that the opportunity to replace equipment that was built in the 1940s and bring that line up to state-of-the-art for Metro North has invaluable benefit to the ridership. So in that sense, I think it's very important that this project get funded and go forward.
Yeah. You know, I think just to be clear, that what Bob just said is that we would have done it. We would do this project with or without PTC. Right. Just the Waterbury is different.
It's only a 70-year useful life, Susan. Come on.
Right.
Jim?
I'm sorry to be coming back with the observations and questions on a short time horizon. But I noticed that on 3 of these, Howard, we have installation will be performed by MNR forces.
Okay.
That is a process which, in general, I would support. I think that it's good for our people to be doing the work. However, I'm reminded of the difficulties that arose on Long Island as a result of the manufacturer being cut out.
Right.
And I want to just make sure that you're satisfied that we're okay here.
Yeah, I am satisfied, and that we will work very closely with Alstom, the manufacturer, when we install all this.
Any other questions on these competitive for Metro North? Motion to approve? Second? Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. No ratifications. MTA Capital Construction, competitive on page 58.
Capital Construction has 7 procurement items this month, and they total $19,856,757. There are no non-competitive items, and there are 4 competitive items. The competitive items total $12,674,862. The first 2 items are for modifications to the Eastside Access Plaza Substation and Queens Structures contract with Tudor Perini. The first is a scope and budget transfer from adjacent contract CQ31 for the installation of the permanent structure of the Yardley Approach Tunnel and the Yardley Track in the amount of $6,347,523. The second item is a scope and budget transfer from future track contracts for the installation of the invert slabs and the utility bench in Tunnel A, and installation of the invert slab in the Yardley Tunnel for a total of $5,641,882. The third and fourth items are for modifications to the Eastside Access Harold Structures Part 1 contract with Tudor Perini. Item 3 is for revisions to work associated with the relocation of the Long Island Railroad Signal and Track Department facility at Harold Interlocking for the amount of $320,457. The fourth item is for the installation of a catenary pole with associated foundations and hardware in the amount of $365,000. These items are hereby submitted for your consideration and vote.
These are competitive requirements. Charles?
Mr. Chairman, I ask to be recused on all of the Tudor Perini items.
Okay. Somebody has that? Thank you. Any other questions or comments on these competitive? Motion to approve? Second? All in favor? Aye? Okay.
Capital Construction has 3 items for ratification this month totaling $7,181,895. The ratifications are for the award of a modification to the security program street level perimeter protection for the Atlantic Avenue Pacific Street Complex contract with AdTech Enterprises in the amount of $366,000. This modification is for fabrication of redesigned bollards and concrete foundations along with associated sidewalk work. It's noted that this work was completed in time for the Atlantic Pavilion to be opened for the Barclays Center's grand opening back in October. The second ratification item is for the award of a modification to the Eastside Access Harold Structures contract with Tudor Perini in the amount of $280,895 for the storage of fabricated material at off-site locations. The last item for ratification is a modification to the East Side Access 44th Street Vent Plant and 245th Park Avenue interest contract with Yonkers Contracting in the amount of $6,535,000. This is a scope and budget transfer from East Side Access Contract CM009 with the Drogados Jedlau joint venture and is part of a settlement agreement with that contractor. The modification involves the excavation and lining of Shaft 1 at the 44th Street Vent Plant. These items are hereby submitted for your consideration and vote.
Charles?
Same request.
Duly noted, abstain from number 2. Any questions or comments on any of these items? Motion to approve. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Helena, you had one other item on capital?
That's correct. I have one capital information item from the October agenda. I'm pleased to report that Long Island Railroad and MTA Real Estate have completed a force account and construction agreement with Brookfield Properties covering Phase 1 of the Brookfield Manhattan West Development Project. As many of you know, this is a mixed-use development on property owned by Brookfield over the Amtrak train shed to the west of Penn Station, bounded on the east and west by 9th Avenue and Dyer Avenue, and on the north and south by West 33rd and West 31st Streets. That's referred to as the site for the overbuild. Amtrak operates in the subsurface train shed at this site under a permanent easement. Brookfield's right to build over the Amtrak train shed are contained in a 1955 indenture agreement. It was never extinguished when the property was transferred to Amtrak in the 1960s. Long Island Railroad's lead tracks connecting Penn Station and West Side Yard pass through this subsurface area, and Long Island Railroad's rights in this area are derivative of Amtrak's. So Amtrak went forward with a construction agreement. We, of course, have to follow suit with a force account and construction agreement. The project is divided into 2 stages. Stage 1 of the project is for construction of an overbuild platform. Stage 2 is for construction of 2 office towers above the platform to a height of approximately 55 floors. It's supposed to be a parking, retail, office, and public use. There's no schedule for construction. However, Brookfield is, of the office towers and residential. However, Brookfield is going forward with the overbuild, the platform portion. They've developed a, I think, rather unique platform plan. We'll hear more about that as it goes forward. But we've entered into a construction agreement which gives them track outages and a non-exclusive license to enter and use our premises for the construction of the platform. So we wanted you to note that, and it may also come through MTA Real Estate.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, I think we've finished. Motion to adjourn? Motion. Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
We did it.